Yo, what is going on, guys? I'm back with another review video. It is actually going to be on my HyperX Pulsefire Haste that I've had for around 3-ish weeks now, maybe 2.5. I have had some good experiences with this mouse, but overall, this is definitely just not a shape I'm going to go back to. I do think that the price range of this mouse, the quality overall is really, really good. And I don't discourage from people from getting this mouse. I do think it's a very safe shape. The coating on this mouse is definitely really, it's just really bad again. I don't know what is wrong with certain mice nowadays where I just can't seem to get a good grip on these mice. Although my grip can be locked in when I start playing, my grip eventually starts to slip out and I do like a very relaxed grip, which just affects the stability of my aim because I am a claw gripper. So when my grip starts to relax, I just can't get a good grip on this mouse and it just seems to slip out of place. I might miss a track because it just gets too slippery towards the end. Maybe a flick, I might have a little bit of extra shakiness because I'm not as stable. There are just a lot of factors going into having a mouse that I just can't get a good grip on. I do want to definitely accommodate that mostly to the coating, as I said earlier. The shape, I think, is really good. I actually think the length is really, really impressive too. I am not someone that can grab all the way to the front of the mouse buttons because I have a very short hand, but it is very impressive to how comfortable the shape actually could be. The next thing I want to talk about is build quality. And for $80, although it is coming from HyperX, a more well-known company than something like G-Wolves, the quality on this mouse is absolutely fantastic. You can see my forearm flexing. I'm trying very hard to cause any sort of creaking in this mouse. I've had no issues with the build quality, and it has been just a great experience overall, especially on the mouse clicks. I was definitely very worried, mainly from the mouse design. I like one shell mouse designs. I just had a lot of experiences where this type of mouse click design has just affected the feel of the Switch, and I'll get into that much later also. In terms of mouse feet, this is something that I definitely have a very, very positive outlook on. The mouse feet design could definitely be improved, but I don't feel like you actually need to upgrade this. They feel very slow, so they're definitely somewhere on par with core pads and BTL skates, but they do feel very consistent on every pad I've used. One of my new main pads, the Woogie 2, I've had a very, very good experience with this mouse on, in particular in terms of mouse feet. I've had a very good experience on my Hien and my Hatereview, and that's just all based on, like, I typically want to use harder pads because you get like a feel if the mouse feet are too scratchy, if you might feel a little bit too much feedback on the mouse pad, but I actually had no issues with that at all. I'm very, very impressed with these stock mouse skates. The main comparison I want to do is going to be with my Starlight 12 in terms of just raw shape design. I wanted to use my Superlight, but I kind of cracked the glass gates on those, so I kind of can't really bring it out right now. You can see that both mice will have the peak of the hump directly in the middle, and it's going to be a slower drop off for both mice, and then they're going to have low button height with also some comfort grooves. Those are definitely like the bulk of the comparison that I can make. I definitely feel like the Starlight 12 is going to be a way more consistent mouse to use. The one area that the Starlight 12 does lose in is the mouse feet design again. These jagged edges, these are core pads, by the way, and even they can't round off this mouse feet design because it is just too jagged. It's really, really like unfortunate, especially for a $190 mouse. The biggest differences between the two is going to be the size and the weight. I won't get into weight because everyone knows that this is a 40-gram mouse. This mouse is actually very light. I think it came in at 60 grams, and at 60 grams for a medium-sized mouse is actually very impressive to me. It does have this little bit of RGB, but I'm really not complaining. It hasn't affected battery whatsoever. I only charged it once within about 2.5 weeks. I wanted to bring up the side profile again just to make sure that people fully understand what this mouse kind of entails. I really do feel like the biggest part that matters the most is going to be the side profile of the mouse. I definitely feel like these mouse buttons on the side could definitely be improved. They feel very just dull. They don't have a whole lot of tactility, but they also don't have, they're not like bad. They're not like the Fnatic Bolt side buttons, but these definitely could have some improvement. Another thing is definitely that coating, like I said earlier. This coating is just horrible. I really do feel like companies should just opt for Zowie type of coating or even Vaxi. To me, I feel like leaving a few fingerprints is way less important than not being able to comfortably and consistently grip a mouse. I definitely feel like that is going to be way more important than how the mouse looks in the long run. I do really like these switches again. They're using TTC Golds, and they feel actually fantastic. And like I said, I do like the shape. I'm actually able to reach all the way to the front. I do feel like if it was I do feel like if the hump was just a little bit further back and then the mouse could just be a tad bit shorter, it would be so much better, not only for claw grippers like myself, but definitely for a mass majority of people. I have seen a lot of people on Twitter actually say that they would prefer it to be just a bit shorter. The real main comparison in terms of mice that I want to do in terms of price range is going to be the Fanatic Bolt. The main reason I want to compare these two mice in particular is that they are in the exact same price range of $80 plus shipping depending on where you live. Right off the bat, I have been gravitating towards the Bolt a lot more than I thought I would. After my review, I actually thought that this would never come out of its box again, but after like revisiting it, even after like a couple days, I've just really been appreciating this godlike shape a lot more. The only thing is I really hope Corpad makes some grips for this mouse, because that is the one thing that's holding this mouse back. But in terms of comparison, in terms of main switches, although the Fanatic Bolt is using my favorite switches, the Kale 8.0s, I do feel like their implementation is quite poor. This mouse design is just really bad. I've always been able to feel the hollowness whenever the click like bounces back up. So when I click in and let go, I can always feel that hollowness because my fingers don't lift off the mouse, and it just feels very, very bizarre. There is also like way more post travel on these mouse switches. I'm sure you could see it. Maybe over here would be a little bit better. I clicked in the switch and all of that post travel. It's just really, really unfortunate. I do think that the Pulsefire Haste is going to be way better in terms of main switches because I don't feel any of that hollowness. I do always prefer that one shell design where everything is connected. Some companies obviously do it really good, unlike Fanatic, but I do think that HyperX did a really good job implementing this kind of click design on their mouse. I think the Fanatic Bolt is going to have place as like my favorite scroll wheel of all time for a very, very long time coming. If you do like a looser scroll wheel hover, the Haste is going to be a lot better. But if you're like me and you like a heavier scroll wheel that just gives a lot more feedback, then I think the Bolt is going to be a lot better. Charging really doesn't matter. They both use USB-C and they both have a fantastic battery life. Neither mouse has died on me yet. In terms of coding, they both suck, honestly. It's going to be what your grip is. If you're a claw gripper, the Bolt is going to be way better despite the crap coding. And I just feel like the Haste is going to slip out if you claw grip. If you fingertip, I do think that the Haste is going to be a lot better, actually. Just because the hump is so prominent on the Bolt, I can't even get my fingers all the way down without fully palming this mouse. In terms of mouse feet, both are actually great. I don't actually want to change my mouse feet on either mouse. I think both of them are on par with the quality of Corpad and BTL. And then they're both rounded really well. I am very impressed with both of them. In terms of side buttons, the Haste is actually going to take it like hands down. It's just so sad because this is going to be one of my favorite mice, but with some of the worst side buttons I've ever felt. Both mice are going to have wonderful performance. I've had no issues with either sensor. I probably should have mentioned earlier, but the Haste is using a 3335 and it has had no spinouts, no latency whatsoever. You're not going to have to worry about anything with that. The Fanatic Bolt is going to be a 3370. If you are still kind of worried that it's a 3335, then you can always just go for a Bolt if sensor matters that much to you. But yeah, that is pretty much all for my review. I did have like an okay time with this mouse. It's just really unfortunate that another mouse that I do think could be really good is just unfortunately hampered by poor quality of coding. I do think that companies really need to take into consideration that maybe the aesthetic of the mouse is not going to be as important as actually being able to hold the mouse in your hand well for long periods of time. My next review is probably going to be on this Woogie 2 mousepad. It is probably one of the best pads I've ever used. It's definitely in my top 3, not even for speed or control. It's just a top 3 pad in my opinion. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all in the next upload. Peace.
Cracked. Oh, on me. Both on me.
One flash,
It's very nutritious.
Yeah, one box.
Dead,
Oh, no.
dead.
He broke me in. He broke the roof. His roof is his.
Wow, that guy missed every shot. Jesus.
Nice shot.
I cracked one dead. This guy's fine. Dude really thought.
There's 3. It kind of sucks just having 2 weapons.
I'm coming to second level.
I don't have smoke. I'm watching your seat.
Last enemy
Nice.
taken
Let's
out.
Oh yeah.
They are so dead.
Okay.